Hey everybody, welcome to our home. So I thought a good way to start with my first episode on my YouTube channel would be to introduce you to where I live. And the idea behind this first episode is what it's like to be an IFBB pro, an American IFBB pro living in Hong Kong. It's actually much different than living in the States, obviously, and being that I think a lot of the viewers and a lot of my followers are probably from the States or Western countries, you might find this interesting. So let's start off with where my wife and I live. And we live in an area called Sheung Wan in Hong Kong. And this is our home. So I'm going to give you the very quick tour because our apartment is not big. Most things in Hong Kong are not big. It's a small city. It's very densely populated. And as a result, apartments are expensive and small. So this is where we live. This is where I eat all my meals and do all my work, my client check-ins. This is our bar. Actually, in my former life, before I quit my full-time job and started bodybuilding, I was actually in the manufacturing business, and I did actually have a drink occasionally on the weekends. So we have a nice collection of scotch. It's been sitting there for about 3.5, almost 4 years, untouched. So that's that. And here's our lovely living room, which is extremely small, as you can see. And there's the view, and that's what we pay for. It kind of sucks to have such a small apartment, but it definitely helps our spirits to wake up to something like this every morning. So, just to tell you guys a little bit more about, well, maybe I should introduce this little guy. This is our pup, Pacho, our almost 12-year-old mini schnauzer who sleeps all day but keeps me company during my diet. And that's my little buddy, always there for me. So just to tell you guys a little bit more about myself, I moved here to Asia about just over 10 years ago. And I originally moved here to take a job in the manufacturing business, actually in the footwear business. I had always loved bodybuilding. I competed back in the mid-2000s, and it was never really that good. I was a little bit clueless. I competed as a middleweight while I lived in Vegas, and I gave that up to move to Asia and start a career, make money. But I never really stopped training, and I never stopped following bodybuilding. So this is something I had been doing all the way through. And it had always been in the back of my mind that I wanted to come back to bodybuilding and give it a shot. So I saved money for years. I saved enough money to eventually buy a house here in Hong Kong. And then I decided to sell that house. And I used that money, with my wife's permission, of course, to give bodybuilding another shot. I really thought that I had pro potential, and I always wanted to try and compete as an IFBB pro and do it full time. So I was fortunate enough to be able to have the financial stability to do that, and so here I am. I got my pro card about 2 years ago, back in 2018, and competed last year. I did my first full season as a pro. And I'll be competing again here in about 5 weeks in Ireland, and then I'll be going on to Indy and to the New York Pro later this year. But the bodybuilding scene here in Hong Kong is very different than in the States. It's a lot smaller. It's just starting out. There are a lot of really good athletes here, and I think that within the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see these guys develop, and it's going to be noticeable. There'll be guys from Hong Kong and you'll know their names. But that's a little bit about where I came from. And I guess I can show you a little bit more about the apartment. There's not really too much more to show. Like I said, it's living room and where we sit and eat our meals. I think the kitchen is clean enough to give you a quick peek. One of the things about living in Hong Kong is that kitchens are really small. So my wife and I have an ongoing battle about who's going to be in the kitchen because we can't both be in here at the same time. So come on and take a look. A little bit messy, I'm sorry about that. But if you look at how small this kitchen is, this is a one-person kitchen. And you see, we even have our washing machine in here. This is pretty typical for Hong Kong. And actually, this is not a bad sized kitchen for Hong Kong. This is actually pretty good. So this is where I cook all my meals. And of course, here's our awesome selection of spices and sauces and everything that's sugar and fat-free, most importantly. So my wife is pretty into collecting art. We have a few cool pieces here. We got one up here. We got this one over here, which I'm not even really sure what that is. She says it's
an extinct cat.
An extinct cat, but to me it looks kind of like a dragon.
And if you look inside,
then over here we have the family photos, and I guess, let's see, we've got
the moon.
Some other stuff here on the wall here. We got the map of Hong Kong and Manhattan. Both my wife and I are originally from New York, so a little bit of taste of home there on the wall. And then down the hallway here, we have a few more pieces of art that are pretty cool. Some Chinese art here. And something else here. We're not going to show you guys the rest of the place. This is just 2 smaller bedrooms and then 1 bigger bedroom. The bigger bedroom is not big. And actually, you can see how small this apartment is, yet this is actually for a family of 4 or more here in Hong Kong, or typically would be for a family about that size. And it's interesting because it's sort of a microcosm of what Hong Kong really is. You know, here everybody is sort of living on top of each other. We're up on the 39th floor. You know, we can hear our neighbors, they can hear us. You can't go 2 feet without bumping into somebody else. And as a result, people are a certain way here. I hesitate to use the word cold because that would be rude. And you know, most of the local people that I know and am friends with are very cool people. But people tend to kind of like ignore each other just because there's so little space here, and people have become so used to it and they're so on top of each other that, you know, they just kind of tend to ignore each other. And that's just the way Hong Kong is. I've become used to it. I'm okay with it. It's definitely not the States. I would say that there's a lot less of a sense of community in Hong Kong versus living in the States. And I think that extends to all industries in all different parts of Hong Kong. So the other thing about Hong Kong is that many of you probably already know is it's very expensive. And as a result, it's a very hard-working city. So everything here is go, 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 work, work, work. People put in really long hours. People work very, very hard. And as a result, it's a really intense place to live. It's a hard place to live. It's a stressful place to live. It's a stressful lifestyle. And you can feel it just being out on the streets. And we're going to show you guys a little bit more about that. I'm going to take you guys on a grocery run. You're going to see just how expensive even the little things are here. And you'll get an idea once you're out in the streets just how crowded and how kind of thrown together everything is. But that will be our next segment. I hope you guys enjoyed taking a quick look at our apartment. I really appreciate my wife taking the time to film this, and she'll be in other parts of this series as well. So next up, grocery shopping. Being in Hong Kong has really been such a great experience. For all the frustration that can come along with it, especially with being mixed together with so many different people and things being so congested and so on top of one another, it really, really has been such a great experience to see something different and to understand how other people live. It's just so completely different from how things are in the States, and it really translates to every different part of life, especially bodybuilding. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in other parts of this video, but I just want to convey that I'm really, really grateful, really thankful for the time that I've been able to spend here in Hong Kong. I've met so many great people. I met my wife here. I've made so many good friends, and I as much as I say things are stressful and tough here, it's really such a wonderful place.